And welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. This is Bob Brown, and I am honored today, beyond words, to have authors with me. Phyllis Irene Radford, as you know, does helps with our interviews on First Sunday, and today we have. Oh my God, is that a natural background, Mark, or is that your office, or did you have a? That's your
No,
real office.
that's my office.
And
How
your
do you
kitty, and is that a kitty or a dog in the background?
Dog. That's
Okay.
Holly.
Which one?
Okay.
Oh, tell me the name because everybody loves your dogs.
That's Holly right there.
Oh, right.
Chloe's over here, but she's off camera.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good deal. Because Mark has Mark Tufo, author of Zombie Fallout series, as well as Indian Hill, as well as a very short-lived young adult. What was the name of your young adult series?
Distance.
Huh?
Distance.
Distant?
Yeah. And because my granddaughter and I love that. We flew back from Oklahoma City sharing a set of headphones so we could both listen to it on my phone. She loved it, and I had to buy her own copy.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad she enjoyed it.
Oh, she did. Oh, don't worry about dog barking. Dogs bark. Of course, how do you wake up a bulldog?
You don't. They wake up on their own.
Oh, okay. So, anyway, as I was saying about Mark, because he's one of the few authors where I can say I've actually read 90% of what he's written. And I came across you by accident. I don't read zombie, and I don't read horror. But I came across your Zombie Fallout, and something about it got my interest. And now 20, how many books, Zombie Fallout?
21.
21. 21 weeks later.
Yeah,
You
that's
sure it's 22?
Yeah, 21 comes out in October, I think.
So where is your fearless hero in October? England, Spain, Pennsylvania?
No, it's South America.
South America.
Yep.
You gotta love it. So anyway, when I was first invited you and read your stuff, just for the sake, because I think you are the inspiration for all people who start to write and then quit and then realize, no, I'm not going to quit. So tell us the story of Indian Hill getting off the ground, if you will.
Sure. Do you want the absolute beginning or Indian Hill being published?
Oh, whatever you'd like to say, because remember, you're here as an inspiration to young and aspiring writers, people who have written and putting stuff down, or people who have sold their first 3 short stories and are looking for some reason to keep writing besides free copies in $27.50.
I know, right? So way back, many moons ago, when I was in college, I had a creative writing class. For some unknown reason, I decided an 8 a.m. class was a good idea. I wake up. I know.
remember those.
I wake up as well as the Bulldogs at 8 a.m. But anyway, you had to write a journal or a story. So I didn't journal. I ended up noodling around, and I kind of came up with the Indian Hill story. And then when the class was over, I stopped writing the story. So I don't know. I figure I was about 2/3 done.
Story or novel?
At that point, it was just a story. I don't know, maybe 2/3 done. So 2/3 of a novel. And then, I carried that around with me for like the next 20 years of my life in a box of, just stuff you carry with you. And one day I was in my garage. I needed some tool to fix something on the car. And I pulled that box down because apparently that's where I kept that tool. And I stumbled across that story. And I was like, I ended up not fixing the car. I sat down and I started reading it. And I was like, then I got to the end. I was like, well, what the hell happened? So 20 something years later, I ended up finishing the story. And, and then I talked to my wife, Tracy, and we talked about maybe getting it published. And we sent query letters to everybody, every agent, every publishing house, anybody we could get a name and number for. And it got rejected by everybody. So at the time, self-publishing was pretty new. So we popped it on Amazon with no editing, a crappy cover, and it did as well as you would expect. It didn't. So that was the beginning of Indian Hill many moons ago.
Now, I have read, and please don't be offended, but I like to read 1-star reviews.
More power to you, man.
Because, one of my 1-star reviews was, why should we care what some libtard snowflake thinks?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. It was a bestseller, but I'll let you have your opinion. But it speaks to the fact that in your early days, you were a brilliant storyteller, but editorially challenged.
Oh, without a doubt. We didn't have money to, I couldn't afford to drop down the money for something that was more or less just an exercise, a hobby. So that was the big catch.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So, you got to spend money to make money and all that crap. And we didn't have any money. So, it just went unedited for a while. And I don't know, I think that first year I sold, 9 copies, maybe in 18 months. It was brutally dismal. For all of you prospective authors that think this is a get rich quick scheme, it isn't. So, but we did turn around and end up getting it edited, and, it has done a lot better since.
Now, that was Indian Hill. I bring that up because that was your start, I believe, right?
Yes.
And to a degree, I sense your passion. I don't know if you had to pick a favorite between the zombies and the werewolves and the space alligators, which one would you pick?
Well, Indian Hill, flaws and all, is always going to be my first love. That's my baby. That's the one that started the whole thing. But the book I'm probably the most proud of is not one you even mentioned. It's called Spirit Clearing.
Right, I missed that. Spirit what?
Clearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it out yet?
Oh yeah, it's been out for 8 or 9 years.
Well, you see, I guess I've only read 87% of what you've written.
It's all right, Bob. There's not a test.
Okay, no scoring. Well,
No.
I'll have to go read that because I will tell you right now that if anybody wants to capture that, I have now covered up Mark's beard with the joy of you can go to that link and buy a box set of his zombie book. And before the show is over, I will look up Spirit Clearing.
Yes.
And have a QR code up for that, or we'll get it in the thing, or in the list, or in the chat. So now, as now that you're a successful author, recognized for your brilliance and vision, um, uh, what is the most fun you can have building an R2D2 robot?
Uh, that.
That little guy down there. Oh, you got a bigger one too.
Yeah, that's a full size. That's movie size right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you, Larry Niven was a guest once at a convention I was working, and that was when full size R2D2s weren't uh, were just starting to make their show, and he's walking down the hallway, and an R2D2 rolled up and beeped at him, and I think he jumped a foot. Uh, but so, how much fun was that?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to tell you it was a blast, but it was frustrating as hell. I don't know about you, either of you, but I like directions. I'm good with directions. I can follow them and I can build accordingly. There are no directions for those things. You are on your own. You have to like source out help. You got to piece out parts from 15, 20 different vendors. And, A doesn't fit with B because B is actually Z, and it was a lot of work. Am I happy it's done? Yes, very much so. I mean,
Well,
that's 8 years of labor right there.
So, what do you call it?
That's just R2.
Do what?
R2D2.
Oh, you still call it R2D2. You haven't given
Yeah.
it a name like you stupid, expensive, overpriced, stroke inducing.
Yeah, that
You save
thing
those for the cats.
that thing was a lot of money when it was all said and done.
Hey, you gotta love it. I love reading your posts because it's like in the midst of all of the work, you still have a life.
Tell me how you do that.
Luckily, Phyllis, my wife does the business aspect of this, so I don't have to deal with the numbers, the contracts. All of that stuff is off my plate. I know some folks, probably like you, Sean Chessa, they do everything, and I don't know how you guys do it because my time is maxed out, so I can't even you must make time. I don't know how you guys do it.
I'm no longer writing 2 new books a year, for one thing. But I am re-releasing 20 books that I just got the rights book back to.
Congratulations. Good for you.
And I thought, oh, great marketing scheme. They're already written. I'll do one a month. That is probably not, for the reader, it might be a good idea. For me, it's not. I tried to write back cover copy for the 6th book, and I couldn't remember what the book was about.
I have that problem.
So, I got one more after that, and then I'm done with dragons for a while. I think that's part of the problem with them. I lived in the dragon world for too long. I'm going to an urban fantasy in January, and then I will have a brand new book in the same world as the urban fantasy, but different characters. That will
Jeez, Phyllis, you're speaking right down my alley, man. I gotta check some of those books out. They sound fantastic.
Yeah, well, none of them are under Phyllis, Irene Radford. Look for Irene Radford.
Irene, let me write that down. I'm not kidding. Those genres are stuff I love. So
yeah, and I've got cozy mysteries too. I've got a couple of different.
You're killing me. Oh my God, I'm gonna be sending a lot of money your way.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for 30 years, and the brand new urban fantasy coming out in May of next year is my 50th book. So I know I've been at this for a long time, and I don't quite know what to do with myself if I don't have a new book I'm working on.
See, that's the problem with being self-employed, man. You always feel like you're supposed to be doing something.
Right. Right. So my big thing is, my books are a little darker than I thought now that I'm rereading them 30 years later. But they're not as light and fluffy as I thought they were. But there's nowhere near horror. I don't do horror. I'm sorry, I have not read any of your books, but I may look for the spirit clearing.
You might not want to then.
Oh, okay. Why do you write horror?
Why? I don't know. The wiring in my head might be a little loose, probably. Between my colorful youth, the Marine Corps, being exposed to it early in my life, horror. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a cousin that used to babysit, and he just loved the genre and made sure I saw as much as he could cram into my little expanding mind.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I was on a forum with a woman who wrote horror, and I asked her the same question, why? And she said, because it's comic relief from reality. And my first thought was, how much therapy are you willing to pay for?
You know what's funny is I don't watch horror. I don't enjoy horror movies
Mm-hmm.
at all, which people find kind of crazy. It's much easier to write horror because I know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get jump scared. Even if I find the stuff scary, at least I know what's going to happen for the most part.
Yeah. Okay. At one point, somebody told me that the difference between dark fantasy and horror is the element of hope. Horror leaves no hope at the end, true horror. But almost every time I dip my toe in the water, either visually or in a book, there is hope at the end. What do you feel about that?
I mean, I try to. My books are definitely dark, but there is hope in them. I believe that comes across. I don't. Oh, I can't imagine writing something where you couldn't root for anybody because you never thought it was going to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least somewhat satisfactorily.
Yeah.
It would suck if everybody was going to die. Then what's the point of reading it?
Yeah. I couldn't finish Jurassic Park reading the book because we got halfway through the movie or through the book. All is lost. You're thinking everybody's going to die. Why bother? Then I did get coerced into watching the movie. And yes, they got through the night. They made friends with the kind dinosaurs. And there was hope, but there was also horror at the end with the idea that the velociraptors are escaping the island.
Sure, I
but
agree.
And to me, so for me, the compelling part of dark fiction are the characters. You need to want them to survive.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like the characters, you're not going to like the book.
Right. I felt the same way about J.R.R. Martin on the first book. Winter is coming. All of the characters I was rooting for were facing execution or death or exile or whatever, and I didn't care.
Those tough books. I mean, you really started to get behind somebody. Rob's the greatest. I love him. No, Rob's dead. You're like, come on, man. I mean,
yeah. And I only allow myself to kill off one good character per book, and it's usually someone not the protagonist.
It's hard, right? I mean, when you kill a character, it's difficult because it's truly a loss. They're gone. You can't bring, Margaret can't ever come back and do her funny stuff or contribute in any way. So, you really have to choose wisely when you off people.
Yeah, I got more flack for killing off a fly whacket, which is a flying black cat, than I did for killing any number of other characters.
Yeah, I had a dog die in my very first zombie Fallout book, and that was 12 years ago, and I'm still catching grief. So I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? When that dog died so that your bulldog could live. I mean, you're down there on the first floor trying to decide whether to run for safety or go get your dog that's hiding under the coffee table. And what did your character do?
I don't. That was a no-brainer. He got the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, it was tear moment when that dog died and defending your character, but still, he was the he almost had to die. But he went into the breach for you, for your lead character, for his family, for the other dogs. Oh God!
Yeah, it wasn't a needless death. It was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are acceptable. They can be explained, but when you're just wholesale murdering characters just because the book is too fat, that I don't agree with.
I'm with you on that.
You know how scared we were reading your books for your bulldogs the entire time until we finally realized you really weren't going to kill them off.
No, I learned my lesson, Bob. You stay away from the animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find it's difficult to keep up a non-sentient pet animal in a story. They're always in the way. There's no place for them. The characters can't do what they have to do because they're tripping over the damned Newfoundland Retriever, which happens in my cozy mysteries. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, then the problem is you got to remember that they're there. I mean, I've gone chapters and not mentioned them at all, and you've had to go back and be like, "Oh crap, I forgot Patches. Where's the cat?"
Yeah. Cats take care of themselves.
Yes.
Dogs are pack animals. They need to be taken care of.
Yeah. It definitely is an added level of work to any story when you have to bring them along. You know?
Well, now you solved that. You wrote one book about the dogs in the zombie world, didn't you?
I did, the Book of Riley.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's all, the Z-Pock through the eyes of the animals.
Mm-hmm.
That was brilliant, I thought. I mean, I don't know of anybody else who wrote a zombie apocalypse book through the eyes of, God, what kind of dogs were they?
American Bulldog. I think the other one was a Corgi, and then we had a cat. So it was like Coming Home with zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Disney movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I think Chloe's.
I hear your dog moaning.
She's snoring.
Oh, okay.
Is that the right book?
Can I get it? There, she's just down there, a big lump.
Okay, yeah. I had a cat who snored. So.
See, I have pugs. And,
so you get it.
They're not bulldogs, but they're pretty damn cool.
Yes, any dog's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
I
agree with you guys. Dogs over cats. Okay.
I'm sorry here. I was yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. So where were we? Oh yeah. Why do you have a rubber duck in the floorboard of your Jeep?
Oh, I don't know how it got started, but Jeep owners put little rubber ducks on people's door handles just to like say hi to other Jeep owners. So that one's okay. That one's huge. It's way bigger than your normal rubber ducky. And when I take the mutts for a ride, Chloe likes to stand on the center console and look out the windshield. Well, that rubber ducky's right in her way, so I just moved it.
Sorry.
Yeah. One of my former agents had one of the little devil duckies, bright red with black horns, and she had it on her keychain. And anytime a store clerk gave her trouble, she flashed that in his face. But I have all of the Halloween rubber duckies, and I have a St. Patrick's Day rubber ducky. I really, really wanted the Magna Carta rubber ducky back in 15 on the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta, but they sold out in this country in about 10 minutes.
Wow, I didn't even know there. I didn't know there was a rubber ducky market like that.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, there is. eBay is full of rubber duckies, or at least it was back in 2015 when I was looking for that one.
See, these are the things that are like the bane of my existence. The little Star Wars robots. I don't know. I collect them like they're going out of style.
Yeah, I have the Halloween duckies, but Halloween is my thing. So and I live in Sasquatch country, so I'm looking at those now, waiting for a rubber ducky Sasquatch.
I'm surprised there isn't one.
Sasquatch rubber. Now, Mark, I know I've been bouncing in and out of your books. The series you're best known for, I think, is the Zombie Fallout.
Yeah, probably without a doubt.
And out of curiosity, have you broke 1 million book sales yet?
Yes.
There you go. 1 million selling zombie books. So there's more to it than just killing zombies.
Yes.
I will tell you that your characters are, you got Mark Talbot, who's the germaphobe stuck in a zombie apocalypse.
That rotting flesh. Ooh.
Pretty much.
Does he keep hand sanitizer around by the gallon?
As much as he can, yes.
And he's always getting splashed with zombie goo. You're just cruel to the man.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes was when they had to pull an old decomposing body out of a car because they needed it, and he sat down in the goop left over, and he froze like an operating system, and he couldn't move. I was laughing while I was writing the scene. As disturbing as that sounds, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh no, evil is its own reward. I mean,
yeah.
But you also, not just Mark Talbot, all of the characters, his wife, who makes it very clear to him, and I don't know if this is how you intended it, that kids are more important to me than you are, but I'll keep you around as long as you can serve that purpose of keeping us protected. Or
definitely at first. I think she was suffering through the stress of an apocalypse and dealing as best she could at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I'll never forget the licking of the peephole.
Yep. Luckily, that's like in the first chapter or so. And if someone likes that chapter and they're okay with that humor, then they're in for the ride. If you get to that point and you don't like it, then you spent one chapter, you turn around and walk away. No harm, no foul.
Okay.
Yeah. So, he's standing there, I think, naked, fresh out of the shower, and the zombies are just making their first appearance. And his first vision is looking through the peephole and having a zombie lick his peephole.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you see, That's what makes your books different. And then his best friend. Tell us about his best friend in the zombie apocalypse.
Well, it didn't start off that way. Are we talking about BT?
Yep. Or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a giant of a man that they actually started off pretty adversarial. Mike and company were trying to raid a grocery store to get supplies, and BT and some other people were holding the store for their own selves. And so it adversarial, but not bullets weren't flying or anything. But over time, while each one was watching each other's back, they became friends, and then probably at this point you can call them brothers.
Yeah, BT was very great character, and I almost threw your book through the window at one episode. The same book has had the cat issue.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I will not do spoilers, but BT is alive and well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's with you and cats anyway?
I personally am fine with cats. It's Mike that has issues.
Did you model him after Bob?
Bob doesn't like cats?
No, Bob hates cats. But
Gotcha.
yet he almost always has one draped around his shoulder or stalking him, or it walks across the keyboard and lets us know that he's part of the show too.
That's funny.
But he hates cats.
Okay. Now as we walk through your characters, because your characters are so memorable, how would you describe Mrs. Deneau?
Oof. She is probably the epitome of evil cloaked in a older woman's body.
Me?
I mean,
no.
She is all.
To
She
Dr.
would be the definition of a narcissist. So, a pathological narcissist, if such a thing exists.
And her cigarettes.
Yes, and her cigarettes.
So,
She was a fun character to, she didn't start off that bad, but she did. Us as the audience got to see her be more and more revealed to the person she was.
So is she fun to write?
Very fun, yes. It's I find that writing bad characters is a kick in the pants.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where do you get your inspiration for these weird characters?
I don't know, the ether world, the nether world. I don't, I did a lot of stuff when I was young. Yeah. And I think a lot of that.
You survived the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I survived the Marine Corps, and colorful youth. I'm trying not to get.
I think he's talking about the 70s.
Yeah, I had an email conversation the other day with a woman I knew many years ago, and then just refound, and she's reading my cozy mystery, and said, "Oh, I know that person."
That's funny.
Yeah, and I have to admit that living in a isolated mountain community, we have eccentrics in the neighborhood, and I really, really want a T-shirt that says "Careful, or I'll put you in your novel." Several of them have already appeared in novels.
That's funny. In my Zombie Fallout series, Mike talks about the neighbors that live behind him. They live in a housing complex, and he talks about his neighbors. He likes them. I'm not. This isn't derogatory. I hope nobody takes it away. But they're lesbians in the book. I don't know how that neighbor found out I wrote a book, and she's like, "We weren't lesbians." I was like, "No, it's fiction. It's fiction. It's not really you. I mean, I didn't use your names. It's just." But
yeah,
I don't think she wasn't too thrilled about it. No.
I thought they were wonderful characters and well done.
Yeah, I guess she didn't like being portrayed that way, but honestly, I was just using your address, your house, not you particularly.
Oh, you'll never win that one.
No, that's why I don't read the reviews either, brother.
Yeah.
Well, but your reviews, I mean, they help tell the story of your growth as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find that fascinating that you had the balls to go out and do what if so many people did, they might be happier with. I mean, you you didn't stop after 14 months of 9 sales. You kept at it.
Yeah, part of it was to keep sanity. And to be honest, not one piece of this next little story I'm going to tell you is fiction. I didn't take any author liberties. I had just got hammered with another review that was a 1-star, and it was on Indian Hill, and we weren't making enough to buy a cup of coffee, so it was like, why am I going through this? What is the purpose? Why am I spending my time and energy to write a book and just get, crapped on? So I'd gone downstairs. At the time, we lived in a 3-level house. I'd gone down to the basement to my wife's office, and I said, you know what? I'm just pulling the book. I'm done. I can't handle this. This is, here's your baby. You put out to the world, and people are like, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen, So I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I told her that, and she's like, okay, you do what you want to do. I walked upstairs all the way up to the top to where my office was, and I heard a ding that I had just received an incoming email. And this dude, I remember his name because we're still talking. His name was Rich Baker. And he said, hey, man, don't listen to the haters. You books are raw, but you tell a hell of a story. Keep going. And I was like, holy shit, there's somebody out there that likes them, So Rich Baker is pretty much the reason why I'm still where I'm at, So why I'm writing books still.
And why you sold over 1 million of them.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah. I had a similar situation. I was getting tired of dragons, and my editor in New York didn't want anything but dragons. And I got a fan letter. 14-year-old girl. I hate to read. A friend gave me your book because the dragon's name is the same as my name. I read the whole book, and I can't wait for the next one. If I do nothing else in my career, I feel like I have succeeded because I made that girl a reader. And I had it reinforced yesterday. Plumber was here replacing the water heater. His son had been staying with his uncle and cousins for the few hours that was going on. He got bored, came over to see what his dad was doing. I was talking to him just to keep him out of the way, his dad's way. And I asked if he read books, and he said, oh, I don't know. I haven't found anything I like. I gave him one of my last copies of The Glass Dragon and of the original editions. And within the next half hour before his dad finished up, he'd read almost 100 pages.
Wow.
And didn't want to leave. I have succeeded. I've made another reader.
Yeah, it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, all of us get those moments when why am I bothering? Why am I putting myself through this? But then there's a little jewel that pops up out of nowhere. The universe is reminding you why you do this.
Yeah, this is not an easy profession.
No.
There's nothing easy about this.
Yeah, and the best way to make a small fortune writing is to start with a large fortune.
Yeah, no lie there.
Now, I wanted to add in something here for you, Mark, because we have mentioned that Phyllis has got a lot of books out there, and but one thing that she only touched on, and that is her cozy mysteries. Her cozy mysteries are spectacular.
Yeah, it's huge genre too.
Yeah. There's in the last one, the fourth one that I wrote, I hinted at ghosts. and I hinted at Sasquatch. But for the most part, there's no fantasy elements. There's just the damn dogs. Um, and I'm getting flack because I didn't specifically say that they were miniature poodle. Two of them are miniature poodles, because this reader thinks standard poodles, and she can't imagine a standard poodle wanting to be a lapdog. Hey, I've had a Labrador Retriever who thought he was a lapdog. But I set it up that I can, in this small resort lodge, we can have mini conventions of all of the various hobbies that my husband and I have dabbled in over the last 53 years. And so there will be more. They're just not at the top of my list at the moment.
Yeah, if you pleased everybody in a book, you probably did something wrong.
Right, and I mentioned a portable bridge that connects the golf greens, the fairways, goes over a creek to a small island, and it's a plank bridge. It does have handrails and a slight arch. There is one at the golf resort just down the street from me. But this particular reader, I called it a bridge. She therefore thinks car size, and she can't imagine people hauling it in a wheelbarrow from the storage shed to the island.
How dare you, Phyllis? How dare you?
So, it's one of those things. Not every reader has my experience. I do try to describe things explicitly, but I don't always succeed because my experience is different from yours. If
Well, and you have the image of it in your head. You
Yeah.
know what you're talking about, whereas
Right.
somebody that's reading it is, they're taking their life experiences and applying it to what they're seeing, and we all have different visions. So
Yeah. And like with zombies, we have the movie image of, with the decaying flesh melting off the face and whatnot. Now, I have read enough to know that in Voodoo, which is the real name for voodoo, you don't fear being eaten by a zombie. You fear becoming a zombie, which is a mindless slave to an overlord. So things have, been perverted from the original. I have trouble making the jump from a Voodoo zombie to the melting flesh, the undead. So how do you deal with that, or just forget about the reality?
well, I would have had to known about Blue Dawn to incorporate it, so it was never really a problem for me.
Okay.
No, I'm going with Romero's version. That was my jumping point.
Okay. And you do werewolves too?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. What's your origin story for werewolves?
I've had them. They're always been around. I've actually got lichen, which are they're the actual monster, and they create werewolves, and they use people and make them werewolves and use them as an army. So you've got the lichen overlord and the werewolf pawns, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
That would be,
werewolf is like a second tier lichen.
Yeah. That's like the explanation 101.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm guilty. I started life as a historian. I love research. I do a lot of research, and that sometimes gets in the way of my creativity because I'm not willing to step too far away from the research, the facts, the research.
I don't like being burdened by facts.
Okay. That's the difference between us.
I never thought of you as a Republican. Okay.
I have made that my political stances as ambiguous as possible because it's all a cluster. Lefties, righties,
Yeah.
friggin' there's lunatics on both sides. So I don't do it.
We're not going to try and pin you down or ask you to commit because that would be cruel. Either way, you would break a lot of hearts.
My Facebook page is politics free.
Yes, as it should be.
I publish a whole lot of political fiction, so I get to be unambiguous about it. But here's a question for you. You built a family with fathers and brothers and uncles and aunts and cousins and friends, and you were almost as good as George R.R. Martin at killing off parts of them. Don't sell yourself short. If you as an author, you do qualify as a mass murderer.
Fantastic.
Well, yeah, kind of, but you grew to love the characters, okay? Or I did. And then when I opened the Lycan series, you jumped us into the future and let us see end run of a lot of the characters. How was that for you as a writer to do that?
That was difficult. There was no doubt about it. You're wiping the slate almost entirely clean and starting fresh. Where do you go from there? There was a lot of time spent staring at the blinking cursor as I went through the notes and how I was going to proceed. So, yeah, it was not easy.
Yeah, because your Lycan series is essentially set some period of time after your zombie series, correct?
Yeah, about 150 years.
And so, yeah, I just that's one of those things when you're reading a book where time passes and you have to acknowledge that characters that you love died of old age or whatever, and you just, I admired the way you did it. I was just curious how difficult it was.
No, it's funny that I wasn't ever even planning on writing a werewolf series. I live out in the sticks. I am away from everything, and just going to get a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts is, a procedure. So the missus and I were heading out, and we just left the driveway, and she's like, "Oh, werewolves are big right now." And I was like, "Okay, that's good to know. What do you want me to do about it?" She's like, "No, you don't understand. Werewolves are big right now." And I'm like, "I still don't know what you're talking about." Then she's like, "You need to write a werewolf book," and that was I started noodling, and that's how I came up with the whole Lycan Fallout series.
Yeah, what'd she do? Hit you in the head with the Patty Briggs novel?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, she left them all around the house.
I did one werewolf book.
Nice.
Yeah, my Spanish Armada book in the Merlin's Descendants series, I had a werewolf. And when I was doing my research, the bane of research, all of them referred to the mother of all werewolves as being a Spanish princess. But I could not find any Spanish speaker who had a Spanish word for a werewolf.
Huh.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is coming out of paranoia against the Spanish for the Spanish Armada. And I ran with it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So, now that you're there, I mean, you've got, 4 series under your belt?
I'm sorry, I got a wall up here. No, there's I got Zombie Fallout, there's Indian Hill, there's Distance, there's Lycan Fallout, there's Sim series, United States of Apocalypse, The Bleed, A Shrouded World. I don't even know where I'm at. I'm at 8 or 9 somewhere. Yeah.
And yet you tend to link. I don't know if they're all linked because you've gotten ahead of my reading. Curses. But are they all linked?
In some more than others, but there's definitely a multiverse feeling going on in the background.
That's kind of cool. Now, would you classify Indian Hill? Let's go back to that one here first. Would you classify that as space opera or horror?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi, good. It is because we talk about horror and the zombies, but you haven't. I've always thought of them as space alligators. Uh, I don't know what your vision of your uh, creatures are in that book.
Yeah, it's pretty much an Earth where a comet never hit. Didn't wipe out all the dinosaurs, and man was never able to really rise. The reptiles took over and ran their own world. So pretty much just an Earth without a meteor strike.
No, so there's the no. Oh my God, I'm sorry. The Yucatan Peninsula thing.
Yeah, no,
On that one.
no extinction level event.
Well, and then I find that a fascinating field of consideration. So, Mark, we're coming up on the end of it. So, why don't I ask you? Because I've been being fanboy here too much. What's your best? What do you got that you want to say that you haven't had the chance to say?
I got a zombie Fallout. 21's coming out in October. 21. I was gonna write one book in that series, so it wouldn't be in the series. But here we are, 21, because apparently zombies pay for my meals, which is nice. I enjoy eating. I just finished Devil's Desk 2, which is not Yetis. No, it's not Sasquatch. It's Yetis. So I now have 2 Yeti books under my belt. What did Lycan Fallout 6 just came out last month? Yeah, in August. So a lot going on, having fun, enjoying myself.
Well, that's good. You sounds like you like writing.
Yeah, I do. I'm sure as Phyllis can attest, writing is the fun part, the easy part. It's all the stuff afterwards, the read-throughs, the edits, the going through the edits, the multiple read-throughs, going through the beta notes. That stuff sucks. I spend more time doing that than I do writing the book. Then obviously the advertising and all that, which thankfully is not on my plate. That is on the business aspect. My wife does all that stuff.
Now, is your wife really a former Marine?
My wife is not. No, she just has to be married to one.
Being a service brat, I can attest that that's a thankless job.
It is, and it was nice to have that support there during some trying times.
Okay, so you have now told us a story about how a Marine goes from being a Marine to a human resources human being to writing zombie books. So I just got to say, it's got to be very interesting for the people who knew you then to pick up a book and say, oh my God, I knew it all along. He's crazy.
Yeah, this guy was weird from the get-go. I don't even know why we hired him.
That is good. And Phil?
Yeah?
What you got coming out that we don't want to pass up, miss?
Okay, the reprint of The Loneliest Magician, which is the third in the original Dragon Nimbus series, that just came out this last week. So next month there will be The Dragon's Touchstone, which is the first in the Dragon Nimbus history trilogy. And so every month, at least through January, there will be a new Dragon book re-released. There's still 6 I've got to do. But then in January, I start with a Clhoe urban fantasy series.
Oh, that was a brilliant series, by the way.
I love that series, but apparently the readers didn't for some reason. And
it's weird, right? The book I'm the most proud of, The Spirit Clearing, has probably done the least amount of sales.
Yeah. So anyway, there's 4 in that series, and then the 5th book, which is a spin-off from that series, Family Bedrock, will be out in May, and that will be my 50th new title. But now in the background where nobody can see it is a Weird West novel that is starting to take over my life. But that's, to me, is the sign of a good book, is when it starts to be more real than reality. Frankly, I don't like reality right now. For those of you who follow me, I had 3 surgeries in 6 months, and I am getting better, but my brain is still scrambled from all the anesthesia, which is another reason why I've kind of slowed down. It's a lot easier to just sit and look out the window than it used to be. I don't get bored.
Yeah, I've read about the dangers of anesthesia. It can, it's a tough thing to get over.
Yeah. And my doctors tell me, oh, your body gets over it in 3 to 4 months. People I know who've had multiple surgeries, it takes a minimum of a year to really come out of it. Granted, cataract surgery is light anesthesia, but even so, I had some really weird dreams while I was under. There's a blog on the Bookview Cafe, and their blog's like, going back to like May or whatever. I wrote Adventures in La La Land, which is basically the dreams I had when I was too loopy to think. So anyway, so look for more dragons, and then look for imps, and then I will be, I don't know, probably, maybe more dragons, maybe more, single title stuff. I don't know.
You are editing an anthology for me right now, or getting ready to.
Yes, I am.
Which is Alternative Theologies,
volume 2.
Volume 2. So if Mark writes us a short story out of Spirit Clearing, obviously we'll give it due consideration. That's a joke, Mark. I want you to keep writing. But I put Spirit Clearing up there. So
Thank you.
Scan that code and pick up what Mark Tufo, author of over sales of over 1 million books, multiple successful series, is the book he's proudest of. So my advice to you is do what I'm going to do and read it. And that way I can let Sean Renee entertain me again, because you have been blessed with one of the best narrators ever.
I don't dispute that.
I mean, when I first listened to the very first moment, I said, this guy has kind of an odd voice. And then by chapter 2, it had become a distinctive voice. And by chapter 3, it had become, this guy has the characters nailed. And I could not imagine any other voice reading to me about Mike Talbot or Mrs. Deneau or BT or Captain Obvious or even Eliza, whom you will never, ever. Are you ever going to admit who you base that character on?
Probably not.
Yeah, she has good lawyers, I'm sure. Eliza just happens to be the only person in the book that is more evil than Mrs. Deneau.
Yeah, it's debatable. You could put them side by side. And, Eliza at least has reasons for who she is. Deneau is she's just mean to be mean.
Oh, my God, though. But I cannot listen to her or think about her without thinking about Cloris Leachman.
Yeah, that would have been a perfect one.
Oh, she would have been perfect to play. You have characters that are so good, and I just applaud you, Mark, that you have managed to keep them living and fresh, and your stories and your story arc working through 22 books, without wearing them out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Bob.
I do appreciate it. And so I'm going to say, BQ Press, this fall we should be putting out our Scott's Planet anthology, which is what happens when corporate America abandons space colonies and tells them they're too expensive to maintain. And so this is their story. Phil has, maybe by the first of the year, Alternative Leadership, which is another look at leadership but from the way only BQ Press can look at it. And then Alternative Truths Southern Edition, bless their hearts. For those of you, Mark, who haven't had a chance to read all of our incredible anthologies, Alternative Truths was a book that Phyllis and I edited from the day we got the wild hair up our ass.
His ass.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm the ass. Then I called Phil up and said, hey, I committed to putting out an anthology. You want to help me? We need to have it out in 100 days.
He made me agree to it before he gave me that 100-day deadline.
Of course.
Hey, I mean, it's not like I've ever gone into a meeting with a high-powered publisher and sold a book as something Phil and I had nearly finished that we hadn't even she had never seen. No. She didn't kill me, and we sold the book.
Yeah.
It was fun. So, Mark, pleasure, and as I will always remember the best time I ever saw you on this show was the first time I had you on with David Gerald, and you may recall that moment. You were talking about rejection slips.
Oh, God.
And David Gerald, the guy that wrote The Trouble with Tribbles, looks over at your window and says with a perfect straight, "What's a rejection slip?"
Oh, yes. The bastard.
Hey, come on.
If I didn't love that man, I'd strangle him for that.
Yeah. Well, he's a good guy. He's moving to Vermont, so he's going to be not so far away from you, within a few hundred miles.
Yeah, beautiful place.
It is. So you might see him at a conventions, which reminds me, Phil, what's your next public appearance?
Probably Oricon, Veterans Day weekend in November. Portland, Oregon.
They're doing it Veterans Day weekend?
Yeah. It's 9th through 12th or something like that.
Oh, sure.
And it's the same hotel it's been in for a while, but it's now a Best Western instead of a DoubleTree. We'll see if the hotel's organization is more efficient than last time.
Yeah.
But it's right there on the Columbia River, and beautiful location. Except that it's right under the interstate bridge.
And we will be there as dealers selling books. And
I will be a panelist.
And Phil does panels. I find that I love doing panels, but I will be sitting in a dealer's room selling all the books that Phil helped edit and a few others. Now, Mark, what's your next public appearance where people can go see you?
I'll probably be at Dunkin' Donuts tomorrow getting a coffee. But as far as...
What town is that Dunkin' Donuts in? And what time do you show up so everybody will know to be there?
I very rarely do panels, Comic Cons, anything. I don't do them. I do meet and greets maybe once a year, but I got nothing planned.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Boston is always happy when you're around, and even though you do make a lot of fun of them.
They're such an easy target.
So thank you, Mark. Thank you, Phil. It was a wonderful to hear from you and hear how you did it. And thank you for giving hope to all of those who are aspiring to success.